All right, welcome guys. So I done the live stream yesterday. Wolves vs Liverpool. Obviously that went terrible. Um, but that's for me is a small issue now. The biggest issue is the stuff that we're seeing on social media around the club as a whole and complete negativity that engulfing our club. And I thought, seeing a lot of the comments asking for Klopp to resign or to be sacked. Uh, and I'm looking at where it's coming from, and it seems to be at this point a lot of you know fans, or and we'll get to that about who's actually fans and who's uh, just watches for the sort of fun of it and doesn't sort of look deeper into the club before making or posting a lot of stuff on social media. But we're also seeing journalists now coming out and saying Klopp's made these mistakes or that mistakes, and we need to also focus on that because it's one thing to go and look at an article and read it and then you sort of believe it because you're seeing it on the web. But we need to look at the people behind these articles and actually checking whether those are factual uh, statements, whether it's opinions, whether it's just here's some other bargaining behind it. Because a lot of these journalists are employed by publications who have affiliations to clubs and to other clubs, to business people, and their motives behind what they put out there. Okay, and journalists need to align to that. They can't just go and do their own things. So, but that's a topic for another day where we'll get into the journalism and seeing articles and how they are formulated and sort of picking up whether it's worth actually taking something out of it or moving on. Okay, but for this video I just want to focus on the club as a whole and seeing the current negativity and where it's all stemming from. So let's just look at the ownership at this point in time. Okay, they at the head of the table, the guys with the money or lack of it, or whatever you want to make of it. But essentially they bought our club pretty much a decade ago now for a certain amount of money, and we all know that that's pretty much tenfold now. The club's worth a lot of money these days, and towards the end of last year they said they want to sell the club or look for investment, whatever you want to believe. But essentially the focus has shifted, right? I think it's fair to say we can all agree that the focus has shifted from giving 100% to the Liverpool Football Club, right, and the fans, versus trying to get other people on board or sell the club entirely. So that's the first thing we need to focus on, and that isn't just a spur of the moment thing. It isn't just from December, whenever they made that, or November, whenever they made that announcement. They also thought about this for a long time and then come up to a point where they said, okay, we're going to go and make it public. So let's look at it, right? When they came into the club, I wouldn't say they invested a lot, right? FSC worked very smartly, and I mean, for that they need to be applauded, right? Because they didn't just come and spend recklessly. Whatever they did spend was from player sales or from facility sales, such as Melwood. And then they sort of just restructured and said, okay, we've got a sale of X amount of money, let's see how we can put it back into the club. And they were doing that very, very, very well. And having someone like Jurgen Klopp to oversee a lot of the playing activities was an absolute masterstroke from them. Whether they knew it would work out with Klopp or whatever the reasoning was for them to get him in, they were the ones essentially responsible for that. And credit to FSG for that. Okay, so that's the good part about the initial investment into the club and the early years, if I can call it that. Then we can look at the magical years in Jurgen Klopp's reign as the manager. So he came in, He sort of found his feet with the team that he had, but immediately when he came in, we could see that there was a change in the philosophy of how he wants things to be done. There was an energy about everything. As a fan of looking um, to the old years of Liverpool when we played this attractive brand of football, I felt that um, by and large returned with Klopp, even though the early performances weren't yielding the results we wanted. Um, there was effort, there was energy, there was a crazy atmosphere for people who went to the ground, and he brought a lot of that back. And that's not FSG, that's Jurgen Klopp and the way he demands the game to be played. We've heard that many, many times when he played against a Stoke or Burnley or these long ball teams, and he gets frustrated by the way they play the game. Okay, but that's a separate matter. But essentially, Klopp is someone who likes to play the game, not just for himself or whatever he wants, but he looks at the fans, at us, and says, okay, these people will appreciate seeing the team play in a certain way. And that's 100% true, not just for our club, but for any club. You look at a club, I'm just going to use Stoke as an example, right? But if you ask the Stoke fans, when they had Tony Pulis as a manager, Pulis was a manager for what, like 6, 8 years, if not longer. But they didn't get in connection with the guy, because even though he was doing a good job result-wise, as soon as the pressure came on him, they wanted him out because playing this horrible brand of football, which no one wants to see. And Klopp's different, and we're lucky to have had that for so many years. So, reading now, coming back to the present and seeing these comments, I'm just looking at my computer behind me and seeing um, just a lot of the tweets and stuff that comes in from these fans who asking for Klopp to go out. And I mean, it's now 24 hours after the game, and we're still seeing FSG out or Klopp out. We're seeing a lot of these hashtags still trending. And as I say, it's coming from a lot of these fans or so-called fans who sort of just look at the present, or they don't seem to have a full understanding of what's actually going on. And that's important before putting out stuff on social media and trying to blame people. And everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but at least have your opinion based on some sort of backing. Okay, don't just look at a few weeks or a few months and then make up your mind. We need to look at the overall picture here. Okay, and that's where I want to come in and say, FSG, it needs to start with them, right? These are the guys who call the shots at Liverpool. And for me, looking back at the past few seasons, ever since we won the Champions League, okay, that was the peak for us as a club, right? We won the Champions League against Tottenham, and ever since then, we didn't invest into this club. Quite literally, we've got a few players here and there, but you'd expect that when you reach the top, you need to just stay there. You need to keep investing, and that's not something new. That's something which all the great managers have said, right? Whether it was Shankly, and if you go and do some research on Paul Shankly and how the players in his first reign aged, and then they struggled for a while after that. And he came out and he said, he can't be so loyal to these players. He needs to continuously turn over to keep the club on top. And if you look at Sir Alex Ferguson and his reign at United for 20 odd years, there was a constant change. Even when they're winning titles and titles and titles, he was continuously changing the playing staff. Yeah, he had a odd season here and there where it didn't work out and he had to settle for an up position, but they were always on top, and that was due to continuously investing into the team. And that's what's happening at Liverpool. So before you jump on Klopp and ask for him to walk away from this position, you need to consider things like that, right? And you also need to consider that it's not up to Jurgen Klopp to um, come out and say he needs players or he needs this. You can't do stuff like that. I mean, I'm not. This is not some sort of fantasy world we live in, right? That changes the focus to your individual self at this point, right? How many of you would go up to your boss at work and then tell him, you know what, I'm not happy. Um, I want a new laptop. I want a bigger salary. I want this. How many of you actually going to do that, right? Publicly. Now let's put in a public forum. You're not going to your manager directly. You're going in a public forum amongst your co-workers, amongst customers that come into the office, and then you go and say, you know what, I need all of these things in front of your boss. No one's going to do it, right? Even privately. I mean, you're not going to go and just do something like that, right? And if you look at Jurgen Klopp, he's got a support staff behind him. He's got playing staff, all of whom he's got personal relationships with, right? So it sounds nice on paper to go and say, you know, I need new players, I need this, I need that, and I'm blaming you because I don't have these things. But the reality is, you can't just go and do things like that, right? He's a manager of the club. He manages what he has, right? If there's things which he wants, I'm almost 100% sure he would have requested it. But he knows the situation, he knows what he signed up for, and he knows the current situation, right? The club is uh, presumably being sold or looking for investment, and there would have been some sort of directive to say that, listen, we don't have money for you, and that's as clear as it is. And a lot of it is comes down to non-disclosure, where you can't reveal certain things, and that's all part of his job, which we're not privy to, but it is part of what he has to do as a manager. Okay, and so for people that's not looking at things like that, you need to really ask yourself, is it worth asking for the manager to resign, a manager who's given us so much? Because it is important to be informed, and Klopp is a human being. He's done a lot for all of us as fans, for the players, for the community around Liverpool. Liverpool isn't just part of that city anymore. It's a global club, right? So it reaches far and wide. So everyone has some sort of connection to that club. So I mean, guys, let's honestly ask ourselves: is it worth replacing someone like Klopp, or is it worth asking questions about why things are the way they are, but looking at it more holistically, right? And saying, are these owners actually doing what they should be doing, right? If they want to sell the club, then let's put pressure on them to sell the club or to get the investment, whatever it may be. But the directive has come from them. It's not from Jurgen Klopp. He's sticking by the team even in these difficult times. It's easy for him to walk away because that man can find literally any job, or he can walk into any job that he wants. PSG is such a tempting situation. They're doing well with the current manager, but quite literally, if Klopp's on the market, and if the moment something goes wrong at PSG, he can be in the job very easily. But he's been with Liverpool, and he wants to be with Liverpool. That's why he signed on. So there's a respect, there's honor in that, which you know, as fans, we need to return that, right? Let's just not be like every other club out there who seem to want to change their manager every second month and are okay with it. Do we really want to follow suit like that? I mean, Everton changed their manager to Lampard. Sean Dyche has come in, but it's different with us. We've got someone we all have some sort of connection with this guy, because the moment he came in, he said, let's turn the doubters into believers. And there's not a single person out there, if you're a true Liverpool fan, to say that hasn't happened. So now that things aren't going the way we want them to, it's our job as fans to get behind our team, right? it's going to be rough for a few months or maybe for next year, but we need to stick by him, right? And the pressure should not be on Jurgen Klopp. It really, really needs to go higher up than him. It really needs to be with the owners whose priority has shifted from the club's day-to-day running, and it's moved to looking for investment or sale because they've left the club without a doctor for however long, right? It's crazy to even think of that. I mean, for any of you who aren't aware, the club hasn't had a full-time doctor for what's it like over a year now, if not longer, right? Then you've taken out the head of recruitment, or he resigned for whatever reason. They replace him with someone else who had a handover of how things should work. That guy's come in and he resigns, right? So yeah, I think he's going at the end of the year, Julian Ward. You then need to look at the guy that was in charge of the day-to-day running, Buddy Hogan, whoever he is. He's gone as well. So what's going on exactly on the hierarchy? That's where the focus needs to be. 100%, that's where the focus needs to be. And as a fan of the club, it's your job to look at things more deeply and to actually try and understand where things are going wrong, right? Instead of just looking at the 90 minutes every week or twice a week, however often we play, and then just riding off the emotion of that and then blasting our manager and players, because the issue is much more deeper than that. So that's essentially what I want to make this video about. What I made it for, it's seeing all of this negative stuff aimed at the players and at the manager. Let's shift the focus a bit. Let's look a bit deeper and keep the pressure, but put it in the right place. And for me, that is 100% on the owners, right? It's not just Liverpool with FSG, it's also Boston Red Sox, right? There's a video that trended recently with John W. Henry and the Red Sox. It's the first time in about 3 years that he actually spoke to fans, and that's his club. Okay, Liverpool's is investment. Red Sox is actually John Henry's club. That's the sport that he apparently loves, and he's been screwing over that club for the longest time now. So I mean, go and look at that video. Just search on Google for John Henry and Boston Red Sox, and you'll see it. But he got booed so badly based on the nonsense response that he gave a question, and that was also to do with transfers and why he's not investing money into that operation. So guys, it's super disappointing, I'll be honest, to see what's happening with Liverpool at this point in time, but particularly to see the disappointment on Klopp's face, because I have a lot of respect for him, that I have to make clear, and that's just a fact as far as I'm concerned. I have a lot of respect for him, and I wouldn't want to see him leave, because if he does, it's honestly going to change the way I see Liverpool Football Club. Then we're losing that element that makes us different to all the other clubs out there. We're a bit more special. For me, we're a bit more special than any of the other clubs out there. And I'm not just saying as a Liverpool fan. For the longest time, it's always been said that Liverpool's the second favorite team of many of the other supporters out there. There was a case going back even in the 90s, in the 80s, even before that, because the city is different, the way they get behind the team, the way the atmosphere is done at Anfield. And I know a lot of it is being lost in the modern society, but that's normal, right? But essentially, our job as fans, and we do have a job, and at this point we sort of need it more than we are in the times when we're winning and when things are going well. So if I can make one appeal to whoever's watching this, it's let's put the focus where it needs to be put. Let's put the pressure where it needs to be put. And that is not on Jurgen Klopp and it's not on the players. Right? It needs to be 100% on what's happening up top, because that does have an impact on what we see from week to week. And yeah, that's essentially what I wanted to make this video about. So guys, if you have any comments, and if you're someone who looks at things more holistically, actually reads an article online and then tries to apply yourself to that article to see whether it's factual, whether it's very opinionated, whether there's motive behind it, then put a comment in this video and let me know your thoughts. Where do you think the issue is, and do you think I'm right in saying that as a fan we have a responsibility to put the pressure in the right place? And do you think that it's fair and it's a good thing to be blaming Jurgen Klopp and for asking for him to resign? For me, it's not. So please guys, let me know your thoughts, and yeah, have a good week.